Oh my God, I believe we are now live on both YouTube and Facebook. So if you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Ursula. And today we have an exciting video where we're going to be giving you tons and tons of value. And the reason I say we is because I have a special guest that is joining me today. And it's one of my good friends that I met honestly on Instagram. We've never met in person, but we met online. And the reason our journeys kind of came together is because we are both people that are very open about talking about mental health struggles, both on Jasmine's journey as well as my own journey. So today we're going to be talking about why is mental health awareness important. As I said, we're going to be talking about our stories and why we try to share this so that if you're struggling with this, to really tell you that honestly, you're definitely not broken. And this is coming from our hearts. So, with that said, we're going to welcome Jasmine. So, I'm going to be pulling Jasmine up to the stage. Hello, girl.
Hola.
Hola, how's it going?
It is going. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, thank you so much, Jasmine, for being here. It's interesting how our journeys have really come to come cross paths and stuff. It's been amazing to get to know you, and I know that we've been doing lives streaming on your podcast between your channel, my channel. Now we just been going on, and it is amazing. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
With that said, I thought we could start with some questions on kind of so that people get to know you, and because some this is in theory my channel, so in theory people should know kind of who I am, but I would love for them to get to know Jasmine and really what is your story and like who is Jasmine.
Who is Jasmine? Wow, that's a loaded question. I can tell you who Jasmine is right now, at this present time. So Jasmine is a wife, a mother. I am a professional. I am a mental health warrior. I am a proud member of Mama's Cocktail Hour, which started out as a four-woman podcast group, but has now become like our little mini network, all about women empowerment and women, just trying to kind of find their purpose and define what a modern day mama is on their terms. I am Latina. I grew up in New York City. I'm the oldest of five, raised by a single mother who had me at 15. So I've had a life full of struggle, and I'm super, super passionate about talking about mental health because of the things that I've been through. I suffered, well, don't suffer, but I've had anxiety and depression my whole life. And when I was in my 30s, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. So I know what it is to be in it. I know what it is to not understand it and have people around you who don't understand it. I know what it is to feel the shame, but I also know what it is to get hope, to feel empowered, and to really just change my whole quality of life just because I was open to the help.
Yes, agreed. Is that time in your life where you know that either you get help or like it's not normal, that there's something that could, like, you could be doing something else, like it's that point in your life that for so many years you've been doing the things and you just kind of go through your life pretending like, oh, this is just life, this is just what you should be doing, because nobody talks about it, nobody talks about this thing. But there's one point in our life, which is actually the second question I have for you, which is, what was that moment in your life that you said, I need to go either to therapy, or what was that point in your life that you were like, yes, that's, I got to do something about this thing that I don't even know what it is.
Well, I would say, like, how you just said, oh, you kind of did it because you thought it was normal and nobody talked about it. For me, it was actually the complete opposite. Like, I knew the things I was doing was not normal. And even though it wasn't talked about, like, oh, you have mental health issues per se, like in my family, it was still brought up that in a way that made me know that the things I was doing was not normal. So it's like, okay, like you're doing these things, it's not normal, but we're gonna need you to stop doing these things because people are gonna see that it's not normal. But it wasn't more of like, let's get help or this is what it is. So I always knew what I was doing was different. I always knew that I had difficulties handling certain situations now looking back because of anxiety. I just didn't have put a name on it. And so because of that, I was always aware I was different. So I always felt embarrassed or I started to feel shame because I knew I was different. And everybody around me knew I was different. And everybody around me told me I was different. But it wasn't like different, like you're unique and special type of different. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like we knew about it, but nobody really kind of explained it to me. And now looking back, I know it's because nobody really understood it. And it was looked at like damage, like you were damaged. So I kind of went through my teens and my 20s just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. My 20s especially was filled with a lot of highs and lows. I was extremely emotional. I made a lot of rash decisions because I just wasn't, I never was on my baseline. I just was constantly up and down. Honestly, it wasn't until I was in my 30s after I was married that my life kind of settled down, because when I was in my 20s, a lot of the ways that I dealt with the anxiety and these feelings of depression and things like that was because I would work, and then on the weekends I would go out. I would, drink, I would dance, I would entertain myself, I would distract myself.
Yeah.
So I really never had to deal with it. But when I got married and things got settled and calm, and I didn't have access, nor did I want to have access to those things, you would think, oh, well, you're calm. Now you have a settled life. You should come down from it. But in reality, it flared up even more because now I had no choice. It was just there. There was no distraction. There was nothing for me to blame it on. There was nothing. So I would say when I was in my early 30s, a couple of years after I was married, it was more the anxiety and my OCD. So I have contamination OCD, which means that I have a fear of being sick. And so what happens is that I guess I fear kind of germs. And so my OCD causes me to do certain things, or they like to say rituals, to kind of soothe that anxiety for me. What ends up happening though, it kind of impairs you because you literally can't do certain things without doing these rituals because you really feel like you're in like imminent danger.
So what would be an
And
example of something that you would have done before?
I wouldn't touch doorknobs. I would have to use a tissue to touch doorknobs. I would go to a restaurant and I couldn't use silverware. I would have to use plastic. I always had to walk around with hand sanitizer. At one point when it was really bad, I used to walk around with my cell phone in a Ziploc bag because I didn't want it to get dirty.
Wow.
Like I couldn't sit down on the platforms, on the seats in the train. And then it was getting to a point where I was projecting my anxieties now onto the other members of my family. So it wasn't enough now that I couldn't allow myself to do it. Now I wasn't allowing them to do it as well.
Like your
Right.
kids
And
and stuff like that, you would prevent them from doing certain
right.
things or tell them, no, don't touch that or something?
Yes. And then my husband too, and he's a grown man. Like, and I'd be like, you can't sit there or you can't eat that. And it's so crazy because when you say it to someone who's with, who doesn't have, OCD, it's like, well, what are you're bugging out, right? But the way my mind is wired is like, it felt like a real threat. Like my mind was convinced that this is real. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. And you physically feel that response, that fear response. Like you would get, anxious physically. I would get like nervous. I would get angry. I would like tense up. I couldn't think of anything else but doing whatever it was that ritual was to soothe that anxiety. And it just got to a point that I felt like I was like in a box because it's like my OCD was saying danger, 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 danger all day long, to the point that I was just completely cutting myself off from doing things. Even something simple as eating in my mom's house now all of a sudden was uncomfortable. And for us Latina, like we Spanish, everything is in mom's house and it's food. And my mom was getting offended because now I wasn't eating at her house.
Yeah.
And it hurt me that it hurt her, but I couldn't help it. And so I just stopped going. I stopped going to restaurants. I stopped going over to people's houses. I stopped doing a lot of things that used to make me happy because it got to a point where people were noticing and I was embarrassed and I was full of shame. And either they try to make a joke out of it, which would make me uncomfortable, or like my mom would try to give me tough love and just be like, it's okay. Like, you're going to be fine. Just eat it, but then that would make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course.
So I was just like putting myself in a box. And then with my daughter, what I started realizing, because she was now becoming like 3 and 4, she was starting to pick up some of the things that I was doing. And so I was like, okay, girl, we need to, bring this back, because my issues are my issues. And if my daughter's going to grow up and have her own issues, then those are her issues. But I would never want to project those onto her.
Sorry, Jess, when would you said that your first OCD thing happened, when it started? Like, was it on your 20s when you were drinking and everything, that or partying, everything? Like, you could tell that you were picking and choosing what you would touch and so on? Or when did it start? Even younger?
I started noticing. No. You know what's so crazy? I noticed it. I never noticed it when I was younger. Even looking back, I don't remember like the OCD when I was younger. Anxiety, yeah. Depression, yeah. But I would say my symptoms with OCD started in my 20s, probably like in my mid 20s. And I noticed it because I worked in a doctor's office. And I started noticing I was doing certain things that it just started to happen. I wouldn't touch this, I would touch that. Or I had to do things a certain way. And when I look back now, what I realized, that when that happened, I was actually under extreme stress, because I was in the process of breaking up with my son's father. And it was a really big life change. So a lot of times people's onset with OCD, the first one happens when they're going through like a stressful situation, a life-changing situation. And that was really, really traumatic for me, the way that everything happened with that.
And it almost triggered this thing that it could have been there all the time, or maybe not even. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't have enough knowledge to know that it just comes out randomly, or if it's something that comes from something else, or you develop it.
I mean, I have it's kind of in the group of anxiety disorders, and they kind of go hand in hand. To me, I feel like it's just the way that my body responded to all the years of anxiety, and my need to control. Because with anxiety, really comes down to your need to control, because you're so scared of whatever it is that you need to make sure that doesn't happen. And my OCD was just that. But what it was really doing was stopping me from living my life. Like, so I'm controlling this thing, but in reality, I'm stopping me from living, from enjoying, from doing the very things that I want to do. And it's hard, because it's something, especially, first of all, in our community, and we're talking about, Latinos, mental health is really not spoken about.
Yes.
And then you throw something like OCD, and they're like, what is that? Why, you like to clean too much? You know what I'm saying? Like, that is just like really left field. Like, what do you mean? What is that? Oh, you like things nice and neat? You're messy. I'm like, that's
nothing.
Yes, I am messy. That has nothing to do with it. There's different types. And so that was another kind of layer when it came to me being officially diagnosed and having to explain to my family. And it was hard at first, because I don't think they knew how to receive it. But what I realized was, the more comfortable I became with what it is that I had, and just being more comfortable in my skin about it and getting better, the more they laid off of me about it. Because you can't use it against me anymore. Like,
and that's something so important, is when you start talking about it, which brings me actually to my other question, is once you start being open about
mm-hmm,
the issue once, because there's a point that even for me, when I first was also diagnosed as somebody that had an eating disorder,
mm-hmm,
I didn't want to talk about it, because my a person in my family said, no, 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 don't say anything. Don't say anything, because but it all came from a place of love, from a place of she didn't want me to get hurt. Now, but the more you talk about it, the more people can really use it against you, because it's something that has made you who you are. It doesn't,
mm-hmm.
like, it doesn't define you. It just makes you stronger. And that brings me to the question, is like, why do you think mental health awareness is important, and why? Why do we want to talk about this? Why is yeah, what do you think?
I know for me, it's in first. One of the reasons it's important to talk about is because I think back to when I was really in it, and I didn't have anybody that I could turn to relate to. So the first thing about talking about it is I always think about, well, there's probably somebody else just like me right now, just trying to look for somebody to just say, look, this is happening to me and it's gonna be okay. It ain't gonna be easy. And you may never get completely over it, but you're gonna be okay. Um Also too, talking about it takes the shame away. A lot of people like to hide what it is that they're feeling in the dark. If you hide things away, you don't talk about it, you don't acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge it, you can't seek help for it. You can't make a plan of action. So that's another reason that it's important to talk about. And also too, just breaking stigmas.
Yes.
People are not going to get the information that they need if or get educated on certain things if we don't even start the conversation. We just have to normalize just having the conversation. It's the time of thinking that this is not a thing. It's a thing. Everyone's going through it, especially after the last couple of years that we've had. There's no way that people haven't been affected. And whether it's something that is situational, that you just happen to go through because of a stressful time in your life, or if you're a chronic sufferer of, like, it's important that we talk about it. It happens more often than you think. And we need to make it okay that those who are really suffering feel safe enough to come out and say
Yeah.
that I'm going through this. I need help, because nobody wants to be labeled as damaged.
Yes. And how strong is that, that whenever you have this thing, now you're damaged? But it's not true. First, you're not broken, you're not damaged. It's just something that you're dealing with, but that it can, it's gonna get better. And it's not something that you're gonna, like, you can deal with it, and it's actually okay. And I just want to make sure that I we do a shout out to everybody that is watching us. So Mama's Cocktail Hour, everybody's here. So hello, ladies, and then we have also Nancy. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being here. But I agree with what you're saying. You're not broken, and you are not damaged either,
Mhm.
at all. Like, you're okay. And
You're more than okay, actually, because people don't understand how difficult it is to fight a war sometimes that nobody sees but you. Like,
I know.
sometimes the biggest triumph you have is actually just getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. And it seems like such a everyday thing to to people, but for people who really struggle, that itself is a victory. Um, I know that there's a lot of people right now who are struggling and they think that it's never going to get better, but it is. And a part of it is just accepting that this is who you are, in the sense of it doesn't define you, but it gives you the opportunity in a way to discover a lot of things about yourself, your strength, your resilience. And it allows you also to have the ability to be able to sympathize and connect with a lot of people who go through the same thing like you.
Yeah. Well, just like the way you're saying is it makes you know yourself better, to the point that some people never get to really know themselves. But when you go through this mental health, whatever it is that you're going through, and you have to really know who you are, you need to learn how to love yourself, you need to learn how to accept yourself, you need to know that it's going to be
Mhm.
okay. You go through all that process that some people that never deal with this, they don't even think of. They don't even think of loving themselves. Like, one of the reasons why I can say out loud, like, freaking I love Ursula, like, I think she's a freaking warrior and she's amazing, is because I went through the exercise of honoring and loving myself even when I didn't believe I could love myself. Like, for me, I
Mhm.
had these glasses, right, that I couldn't see what everybody else could see. So it was accepting myself with all my flaws, accepting myself with
Mhm.
all of the things that I believe that if I hadn't gone through what I did with my eating disorder, I wouldn't have been able to say that out loud. And
And that's actually a very important characteristic to have, because you're able to talk and be open about yourself, not only your strengths but your weaknesses. And a lot of people have trouble doing that.
yes.
They
Yeah.
find it very difficult to speak about. But when you go through the things that we've gone through, we be like, oh no, I know now it's this and this and this, but I also know that I can do this and this, you understand? And to a lot, to us it comes naturally. But a lot of people who have not gone through the same thing have difficulty, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're so open, you're so brave. And it's just like, no, it's because I literally had no choice but to learn these things about myself, because it was the only way that I was gonna climb out of whatever it was that I was in. I literally had no choice but to find things about myself that gave me the motivation to pull myself out of, to give myself hope, to give myself something to look forward to because of where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see, so when you see vulnerability on somebody else, so let's say people that are seeing us today and they're like, oh, amazing, they can talk about this, they see us as courageous. But then when we see vulnerability on our own, we see it as what is it, like a defect, like a failure, like it's not something that you should be proud of. But you should be. All the vulnerabilities make you stronger. It honestly, we are not much stronger than anybody else in this freaking world. We are just human beings that we are sharing our story in order to motivate somebody else. But so it just, I mean, people see us as courageous, but they are courageous by just saying, hey, I think I have something that's not right and I need help. In the moment that you at some point say, you know what, I should really seek help because something is, it's a little bit out of whack, that is courageous. That moment is just as courageous as us talking on freaking YouTube, on a live, on Facebook about our problems.
And in reality, we would never get to this point if we didn't take that first step.
Yep.
Because let me tell you, we also went through a period where what you mean? I don't have a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just, emotional. That's it, like I'm fine. But in reality, we weren't fine. And again, it's just accepting that I'm not broken, I'm not damaged. It's just this thing, by like, I have a biological response that's out of whack, and it's causing me to think a different type of way, but it doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't hinder me from living the life that I would like to live. It just means that I got to work extra hard um to keep certain things straight in my life so that I can accomplish things. But I also get a lot out of it, which is I know I'm strong. I know I'm strong because I've been through it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know that I can do anything I put my mind to because I've been through it.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I've proven to myself. And when you say about vulnerability, that's so interesting, because vulnerability for so long was taught to me as weakness.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to be telling everybody how you feel, because people will use that against you. You don't need people to see you cry. You don't need people to see that side of you, because people are, they're mean. They're gonna hold it, and then they're gonna throw it at you. And
Yeah.
people do say we're courageous for being vulnerable, but I realize that that is a superpower that we have, and that's being able to communicate how we feel or our experiences, because it allows us to connect with people.
And also when
And
you, sorry, Jasmine, I was going to say, when you own it, because right now we are owning this,
mhm,
we are owning it. And in the moment that you own it, it doesn't hurt you anymore. Because
exactly.
the words of anybody saying, oh my God, you had OCD, you had anxiety, you have anything, it's like, yeah, like, it's not something that you are hurting me by saying those words. Even, oh, you had an eating disorder. Yes. Like, and what?
Yeah, especially because when you're at a point like we're at, is like, now we don't want to say that we still don't deal with these issues, because we still deal with it. We still have good days, we still have bad days. The difference is that now we have the awareness, and we have the tools, and we have the hope, because we know that we can come out on the other side. But when you do own it, there's power in that,
Yeah.
because you're like, okay, and you can't hurt me, because I'm proud. You tell me you got OCD, I'll be like, yeah, girl, I do have OCD. And let me tell you, okay, I'm very proud of everything that I've accomplished. I'm very proud of the 2 years of freaking behavioral therapy I did. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I'm super proud of it. Super, because I knew I did it, and it's changed the trajectory of my life, because now I can do things and open myself up to opportunities that I would have not been able to do. So first you have to do the work within yourself. You can't worry about what everybody else is thinking. You have to really kind of go inward and be like, what is it that I feel about this? And work your feelings out first about how you feel, because everybody else is going to go off of how you feeling about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes. Which that kind of leads me to our last question, and is like, why is it important for someone who's dealing with any mental issue to remember that they're not broken, that they are like talking about your feelings and open up is, it's not as, yeah, it doesn't make you less, it's not, doesn't make you broken, it just makes you human. So what do you think? What is your take on that?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that my faith plays a really big part in my recovery, my ability to fight this battle. And one of the reasons I think that we are not broken because we have mental health issues is because, how can we be broken if he designed us, he made us this way, and he doesn't make mistakes, right? So to me is like, I have this, there has to be a reason why, there's purpose in it. And I you cannot be broken if you are healing. You don't need to be fixed,
Yeah.
because you are not broken. There's nothing broken about someone who's suffering from mental health issues at all. You're not less than.
Yes.
You just need to heal. You need to take the time to care for yourself a little bit more than someone who's not dealing with it. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're less than or that you're incapable of. Don't let anyone try to minimize your feelings or make you think that you're just being dramatic. Don't let anyone tell you that you're crazy. I hate that word. That's a very derogatory word. Like, don't let anyone else make you feel less than. Just like someone who has a medical condition, you just need to get the help that you need to help you feel better. And that's okay. it doesn't take away from who you are, who you can be, who you're meant to be, you
Yeah.
know?
You're actually okay. And it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be moments where you think you don't even know what the next steps are. But you just stick with it, right? Like it's just one of those things that you have to believe that there's light like on the other side of the bridge. Like you just have to believe in something that's not yet seen, because at the time when you're going through healing of this issue, I mean, it happened to me where I thought, I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to get out of this. Like
And you're gonna feel worse.
yes, honestly, because let's say for part of my own healing, I had to eat all of these prohibited foods that were in my head that I couldn't eat. It was like a bagel, a banana, a muffin, like things like that, that I had them as like these foods that I would deny myself. And when I was dealing with my therapist, she's like, okay, we're just gonna eat them. And I remember like I remember doing looking at her and be like, I am gonna explode because I am eating all of these foods that I shouldn't be eating because they're not like my head just gonna explode. Anyway, so as I went through this process of allowing myself to eat anything, I thought to a point that it was never gonna end, and that I didn't even know what it meant to see myself the way other people would look at me. I didn't know what that was. And I just think that if we could just stick through it a little, like just stick through it a little longer. Just like if you're building your business, if you're growing your Instagram, anything, just keep doing what you're doing. At some point, it will work out. Like, did you have a point there in your life where you thought, okay, I'm not getting any better. It just got worse?
When I did my when I early on when I started my behavioral therapy for my OCD, I was like, wow, I'm really nuts. This is crazy. Because and I want it because like when you're in therapy and you're like really working these things out, you start to realize.
Yes. How crazy it is. Yeah, no, not because you're crazy, but the way your brain is thinking.
Yes. And so I didn't want to deal with it.
It's like, I don't want to deal with that. Thank you very much.
Like, but I pushed myself. I had to, convince myself like, okay, it's gonna get better. I have to face this. This is the reason why I'm the way I am right now, because I kept running away from it. And that's why I always tell people, whatever you're feeling, it's better just to sit in it, as uncomfortable as it may be for those few minutes or even for those few hours. It will pass. And that's something that I had to learn, and that behavioral therapy showed me that as uncomfortable as I felt because I was touching this, that feeling will eventually subside. I just have to sit in it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, we've talked about this for almost 40 minutes. Which we could just go on and on, but I mean, I'm gonna be calling it a short now, because it's beautiful, but we're not here to talk about this for an hour, because I could honestly just keep talking to you for, I think we've done this 1,000 times, and every time we talk, I feel like we talk the same amount of time, and we just like go on and on and
We'll
on.
keep going.
But Jazz, thank you so much for being here. Would you mind sharing, where can people follow you? Where can people find you? Just, yes.
Yes. So you can follow me at Jazz Speaks Life, me individually on Instagram. And then you also need to follow at Mama CH Network, where the rest of my girls are. And we're all for Latina women, all about women empowerment, finding your purpose. You get a little bit of everything. Super dope. So make sure that you check us out.
Yeah, and you guys are on YouTube too, right?
Yes, Mama's Cocktail Hour is our YouTube channel. You can find all our content there, the full videos of our podcasts, our special little episodes that we do individually. All our stuff is there. So definitely subscribe and check it out as well.
Perfect. Well, is there anything else you want to share, or are you feel content with our show today?
I'm very content. The last thing I just want to say is that you are not broken, you are healing, and we got this.
Yes, and you are going to be okay. And we're sending you lots of love. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll do this again. Thank you, Jasmine. We're now going to stop the live and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.